into the whole basket here this week. Certainly the Ravens at 2-0 and headed to Jacksonville. We will be discussing that all week, as well as the Jacksonville 0-2 start. But the story from now through Saturday night, when I get on that plane for Jacksonville, it's going to be Oriole baseball. I have said this is the biggest week of Oriole baseball as far as a homestand, as far as anticipation, as far as what could happen here in regard to Oriole Magic that Camden Yards has ever seen. I don't remember a time in September, because there hasn't been, when the Orioles are climbing into this thing 3 games back, playing their oppressor, having a chance to really do some special things this week and make this thing interesting. Luke, they did it last week up at Fenway. I mean, they got the better of the Red Sox for the most part. Now here comes this 4-game series, and I guess all eyes are on the Orioles as much as we have Ravens fever around here. This is as big as it gets for the Orioles.
It really does. You'd like to be in a little better position than 3 games out, and you can really thank the New York Yankees for that, I suppose.
Or the Tampa Rays over the weekend.
Right. Well, sure. And, the Orioles didn't have a great series over the weekend by any means. I mean, a 4-game split against the last-place team, you'd like to do better. To expect a 4-game sweep, that's asking a lot. But
I don't want to get beaten by Mikey Matuk either.
Sure. Sure. So,
where the hell he is.
It's kind of a lackluster weekend from that regard. I mean, the good news is this team's sitting pretty for a wild card at this point. I mean, they have a 3-game lead over the teams chasing for that second wild card, and the way Toronto has stubbed its toe for the better part of the last 2 weeks or so, they even have a game advantage as they start this 4-game set with the Red Sox. But it's still sitting right there. I mean, they're 3 out. Yeah, if you complete a 4-game sweep, you're in first place. I think if you're being realistic, understanding what the Red Sox, how they played over the weekend, how they've played for quite a while now, and with the Orioles, just with their shortcomings from a pitching standpoint, facing the best lineup in baseball, probably a lot to ask for a 4-game split or a 4-game sweep. But if you can take 3 out of 4, and you narrow that gap to 1 game to go with roughly, they have 13 games to go. You'd have 9 games to play, and you're 1 out. Anything can happen then. I mean, you're right there, assuming you continue to play well down the stretch. So it's definitely exciting. There's no doubt about that. You can't ask for more. I think back to 2012. Remember, the Yankees came in. The Orioles were chasing the Yankees. The Yankees came in, I want to say their last trip was early September. It was that 4-game series in which Markakis broke his thumb. But they didn't have a chance to play the Yankees. I don't think they played after that series. I could be wrong about that.
And that was earlier in the month, yeah.
Yeah, that was more like September 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere
It wasn't
around
week
there.
4 of the NFL season,
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. So, they didn't have that opportunity. And in 14, they had already clinched at this point. So they were kind of the only thing they were chasing at this stage was the possibility of home field advantage. So this is special territory in terms of where the Orioles stand and just having an opportunity to have the Red Sox come in here. Now,
this isn't going to happen every year where you can go out there and watch the Orioles and the Red Sox of this level, of this magnitude, battle for first place. But that feels Memorial Stadium-ish to me. It's been that long.
Yeah, and sometimes it's even just the timing of it. I mean, like we said, the Orioles have been in some pennant races here of late. This isn't the first time this has happened. You had 12, you had 14, but just the timing of this is, being the last homestand of the season, it's exciting.
Hey, that's why the NFL puts the Ravens in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh the last 2 weeks, because they're thinking somebody's going to be 9-6 and somebody, that's the way you want it to be. That's why you don't want to play the Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend. Although I dig it. I mean, I'm looking at it like, well, they better take 2 out of 3, if not 3 out of 3 against these bums, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to make assumptions because you saw what happened to the Orioles against the Rays, where they only split, and they needed some heroics just to get a split, quite frankly. But it's. Be careful what you wish for, because this Boston team's playing well. I mean, what they did to the Yankees over the weekend, Hanley Ramirez is just on fire right now. And we know that lineup is so dangerous, but, that's such a deflating series for the Orioles watching that from afar, because, even if the Yankees are able to get 1 game in that series, it's a much different climate for how this series works. I mean, if the Orioles get a sweep, then I'll gladly say that I was wrong about it, but I just don't see them doing that against Boston. But, I mean, the clear goal has to be to take 3 out of 4. If you don't, and it's a split or, heaven forbid, worse than that, chances are probably not going to win the division. I mean, if it's a split, they're 3 games out with 9 to play. That's probably not going to happen. You'd have to really, almost win every game the rest of the way and then have Boston stub their toe. You need that kind of a scenario for that to happen. So, it's kind of a 3 out of 4 minimum requirement here if you want to win the division. But as I mentioned, the one satisfaction you can take, despite the weekend not going the way the Orioles would have liked for themselves or for the Red Sox, is wild card is looking pretty good, assuming you continue to play at least solid baseball the rest of the way.
All right, so for the Red Sox over the weekend, obviously a bloodbath for the Yankees, and I know anyone that hates the Yankees never minds them getting bounced around the way they were. But the Red Sox really kind of put the foot down on the gas a little bit, after the Orioles got the better of them this time last week. This Oriole-Red Sox thing, over 4 games here, it's almost playoff baseball, and I expect it to be a little chippy, quite frankly. I mean, Ortiz in here for the last time. My wife even wants to put a Red Sox jersey and go over there this week. This is a week where we're going to talk about attendance. This is a week where there are going to be 10 or 12,000 Red Sox fans in there. Now, how many Oriole fans in there? Time will tell, but it's going to be a mixed crowd. It's going to be bawdy. It's going to be raucous, and we've got some pitching matchups that, I don't know that they favor the Orioles in any way, certainly with Porcello and Price involved in this. But you see Rodriguez and you see Buchholz and you see guys that the Red Sox they'd rather have Martinez and Schilling and Clemens and Beckett and some of those guys back right now. They don't have them either. This isn't the most loaded pitching, part of this, and we're not going to see Tillman in this series either. But the Orioles have a chance to get after these guys this week.
Well, Tillman's supposed to go Thursday, according to the Orioles.
I got Jimenez on Thursday, but we'll see, right?
Well, I'm looking at the Orioles game notes. I mean, that ESPN and some of these other sites will list it unofficially, but the Orioles are kind of in a holding pattern as far as what they're going to do for Wednesday. That would be Gallardo's spot, but what they decide to do, who knows? Gallardo or Jimenez, whatever they do.
Tillman's on rest after working Saturday, so when I saw it, I'm like, the whole Wade Miley thing. I'm like, I'd be shocked if they don't throw Tillman on Thursday, but Jimenez has been fine too, right?
Yeah. I mean, the way this sets up, and this was one of the reasons why they decided to go with Wade Miley on Sunday, who ended up pitching fairly well until he left with a strain in his upper back, and you wonder what that means for him.
That was his best effort, right? I mean, he was okay.
Yeah, I mean, he'd had a couple other solid starts, but he was rolling pretty well there. And I mean, it's the Rays. I mean, it's not a juggernaut of a lineup, but 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk over 4 innings. But the reason why they decided to send him out there on Sunday was, one, they thought it was a decent matchup for him, but more importantly, it set up that you could give Bundy and Gausman an extra day of rest, which I think was huge, especially Gausman. Keep in mind, he threw 120 pitches in that 1-0 effort at Fenway Park, but it also allowed both of them to be in line to pitch against the Red Sox. And you look at the pitching matchups, as you mentioned, Porcello and Price going to be tough, no doubt about that, but Eduardo Rodriguez has been very much up and down. Clay Buchholz has, been in and out of their rotation. So, it's not to say those guys won't pitch well, can't pitch well, but you look at these matchups and you shouldn't be crawling into a corner in the fetal position saying, woe is me, the Orioles have no chance. Now, on the flip side, the Orioles starting pitchers, who they do have their best going, are going up against the Boston lineup that can absolutely wear you out. But, I mean, you look at this on paper, there's no reason to think the Orioles can't compete here and can't, possibly win 3 out of 4. It's a tall order, there's no doubt, because I think most people acknowledge that the Red Sox are more talented. But, as much as we've all complained about, the Orioles' shortcomings, here they are, 15 games over 500, 3 games out of first place, currently holding the first wild card. With all their flaws, 13 games remaining. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. So, we'll see how this plays out over the next few days. But, on paper, I don't think there's any reason to to just fold over and say you have no chance, because I don't think Buck Showalter and company are going to do that.
He is Luke Jones. You can follow his journey all week long. He will be up late and up early and on the backfields at Owings Mills, as will I, as well as at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. 4 games with the Red Sox. I want to make sure I get the pitchers correct here. Bundy, Porcello on Monday, Gosman, Rodriguez Tuesday, Gallardo, Buchholz, we think, and then Tillman or Jimenez on Thursday, and David Price. I know one thing, you're going to see 2 of the best pitchers in baseball, Porcello and Price, and sometimes the Orioles have really risen to the occasion when they've seen these guys. Porcello going for 21 now.
Yeah, and I'll throw Gosman in there right now. I mean, for the better part of the last 2 months, he's been one of the best pitchers in the AL. The numbers don't lie. Since that horrendous start against Toronto in late July, where he gave up 3 homers, I believe, over the first 5 batters of the game, he's been nothing short of really, really good. But, this Orioles team, they have to hit the ball. There's no doubt about that. We've talked about this for the entire second half. From the point that they came off that June, and then the bats started to swoon a little bit there in early July, and then we really saw it after the All-Star break. This team just hasn't been able to click nearly as well offensively, and just look over the weekend. Saturday and Sunday they scored a combined 4 runs. They were fortunate to win on Sunday. They kind of reverted to what they do best, and that was hit a couple home runs on Sunday, Machado and Trumbo. But on Saturday, they got a couple sacrifice flies. Everyone's talked about their inability to manufacture some runs. They did that, but they didn't hit the long ball to go along with that. So they need the bats to wake up. You would think, even if Bundy and Gosman and Tillman and whether it's Jimenez, Gallardo, whoever pitches that Wednesday game, even if they pitch well, you're going to have to score some runs here. You cannot expect to just score a couple runs and think that's going to hold up. That's what was amazing about the Orioles at Fenway Park last week. Let's face it, the bats weren't exactly on fire, but they got such great pitching performances, from Tillman specifically, or not Tillman, Gosman specifically. But they were able to, win that final game, scoring only 1 run. Can't expect to do that again. Have to be better than that. And, we've kind of said this throughout the second half. Anytime the Orioles have had some rough patches, that the offense needs to wake up, the offense needs to score runs. And they've had some stretches where they've done it, but they haven't had that sustained period of time where they just go nuts for a week and a half, 2 weeks at a time, like they did in June, which was historic. I don't know if you're going to see them have that kind of performance, but in June they hit home runs, they had doubles, they drew walks, they had a high on-base percentage. They did it all, and they've been chasing that since then. If they can find a stretch like that, not just for the final 13 games here, but if you get into October, things become far more interesting for this club. But no doubt the bats are going to have to show up here over the next few nights, because they're going up against some quality pitching.
Any thoughts about Darren O'Day being thrown back into this mix at this point? Because he was sort of the one guy we were waiting on after Tillman. I know now Steve Pearce is a guy we're not waiting on anymore. Yeah. But, the injury thing, we talk so much about it in football. But here as we get down to the line, the other part of this is the extra rest for all these pitchers. I know Buck wanted that, and the Wade Miley thing happened on Sunday, and they pulled the game out. It wasn't because of the bats. It was because of the pitching. But that being said, every guy is going to have a little extra rest. I'd like to see a little more out of all of these guys this week.
Yeah, O'Day's interesting. He gave up the home run, first time he'd pitched since August with the shoulder issue. I did not, full disclosure, I was watching the Ravens, did not see when O'Day pitched. But, he gave up a home run. The long ball's been an issue for him. He hasn't been right all year. He just hasn't. And it's been unfortunate. He's missed so much time, missed roughly half the season, and when he has been out there, hasn't really felt like Darren O'Day. He has an ERA over 4. If he can knock off the rust, and obviously the big question is the shoulder truly healthy, or is he going to be hurting again in a week? That's why they took their time with him. That's why he missed as much time as he did with this latest shoulder issue. But if they get him right, then that bullpen becomes that much more formidable, because now, if you get him back into his regular role, and that's a big if, and I think they should probably try to bring him along as slowly as you can when you're into the third week of September with that reality. But if you can get him right, you can then slot Brad Brock back into that seventh inning role that he's best suited for. Michael Givens can be a sixth or seventh inning guy that you match up with. Donnie Hart has pitched really well for them. Ran into some trouble, made it interesting on Sunday, a few base runners. But overall, this kid hasn't allowed an earned run yet. So it's been really impressive. Get O'Day back in there. Bullpen becomes much more of a weapon that we're used to it being. And as far as the starting pitchers, getting the extra day for Bundy, you hope that helps. His velocity has been better the last couple starts after it had kind of, not that it was at an alarmingly low level, but it had not been quite as explosive. And certainly wanted to get an extra day for Gaussman to set up to have him start certainly in this Red Sox series and be at 100% from a stamina standpoint. So get those guys. Tillman wasn't thrilled about his start over the weekend. Command wasn't great. He wasn't awful, but wasn't at his best. So still questions with him, but he did say his shoulder's feeling good, so that's a good sign. But they need to. You have to be firing at all cylinders at this point in the year. There's no doubt about that. It's the captain obvious statement. I don't know if you can predict that to happen because, let's face it, this has been a 500 team since the All-Star break. They were 15 games over at the All-Star break. They're 15 games over as they start this huge series with the Red Sox.
That is treading water now, isn't it? That is win one, lose one.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative of having a nosedive, I guess, like the San Francisco Giants have had, for example, or the White Sox were talked about a lot the first couple months of the season, and now you see where they are.
And they made the big trade.
right. So it's still better than the alternative, but they clearly have been treading water for a very, very long time now. Let's see if they can finally put it all together. They're healthier. It's a bummer to lose Steve Pearce. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think that's not a season-defining kind of loss by any means. But you just have to put it together. They've gotten some good starts from 4 members of this rotation right now here of late. So can you continue that? Can you get O'Day back in there to make the bullpen look even stronger? So you can bridge the gap to Zach Britton, who continues to be outstanding. And can the bats go nuts for a little while? They're capable of doing it. They've done it for long periods of time this season. But can they do it when it matters most? Coming up against this Red Sox team that you need to win this series. A split probably keeps them in fine position for the wild card, but really puts them behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to win this division. So need to really try to take three out of 4 and lower, decrease that gap to just 1 game with 9 to go. Got a great chance then, but have to pitch well, have to hit well. Again, no duh kind of statements, but it's where you are at this time of the year when you're playing these kind of high stakes games. That's what you have to do. Can you rise to the occasion? You think back to the '82 Orioles. They needed the 4-game sweep against the Brewers. They almost did it, and they unfortunately finished 1 game short. This isn't quite like that because you have some games to go after this, but it does have that feel that it's kind of put up or shut up time in terms of your hopes of winning the AL East.
All right, we got a big week around here. Craziness and the zaniness of college football. And the Terps got a big game coming up now, and they're undefeated. The Ravens are undefeated, and we'll see if the Orioles can be undefeated this week against the Boston Red Sox. He will be out at Oriole Park at Camden Yards for as long as it takes. We got golf tournament swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry. Big thanks to Steve DeCastro and everyone at Roost Chris and Sizzling Steaks. And we're going to have a big, big week. Tuesday night, Eric Weddle in Aberdeen at the at Adams G. We're going to be chatting with him and swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero. We've learned that next Wednesday we're going to be at Greenmount Station with Alex Lewis, the new rookie left guard who speaks fluent German, by the way, as well as Ryan Jensen. So hopefully the Ravens will be 3-0 at that point. And we have plenty to discuss with Oriole baseball happening every single night. You want to be following us out on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and you can always reach Luke, Baltimore Luke on Twitter, and Luke at WNST.net. I am Nasty at WNST.net. ToyotaToyota.net. And anything you miss here, you can find in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper with blogs ships to your email inbox every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will have you covered on Thursday. In the meantime, we're going to be here all week doing Oriole baseball and doing some Ravens preparation for a trip to, South Georgia or North Florida? I'm not sure. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.